There is a profound stillness that permeates the fabric of space, an ocean of darkness stretching farther than the mind can grasp, dotted with islands of light, stars, nebulae, galaxies, each a monument to the laws of physics and, perhaps, to mysteries we have yet to comprehend. Since time immemorial, humankind has tilted its head skyward and asked the oldest of questions: what is out there? And perhaps more hauntingly, why? Our universe is not a quiet place. Beneath its seeming silence lies a symphony of enigmas. It is a place where stars are born in clouds of hydrogen, burn for billions of years, then collapse into invisible prisons of gravity, black holes from which not even light can escape. A place where time bends, space stretches, and the very act of observing may alter the reality being observed. And despite all that we have discovered, the composition of the stars, the birth of galaxies, the dance of the planets, we remain surrounded by the unexplained. Why is there more matter than antimatter? Why does gravity behave the way it does, so weak, yet so persistent, shaping the structure of the cosmos on the grandest scales? What is the true nature of dark matter, that ghostly substance making up most of the mass in our universe, yet eluding every attempt at direct detection? And then there is the shadow of something even more elusive: dark energy, a mysterious force, not only accelerating the expansion of the universe, but seemingly pushing the very cosmos apart at an ever-increasing pace. It is invisible, undetectable, and yet it dominates the universe. Somewhere between the ordinary and the extraordinary lies the unexplained. Fast radio bursts, millisecond pulses of energy from deep space, flash across the sky with no clear origin. Some repeat, some don't. Magnetars, with magnetic fields 1,000 trillion times stronger than Earth's, twist and rupture space-time in violent outbursts, reminding us of the ferocity that can lie behind the veil of the stars. Rogue planets drift alone through interstellar space, severed from their suns. Moons hide oceans beneath their frozen crusts. The void between galaxies, once thought empty, may conceal particles and forces yet undiscovered. Even the humming neutrino, born in nuclear reactions, passes silently through matter, through us by the trillions each second, whispering clues about the earliest moments after the Big Bang. And then there is life, or rather, its absence, or perhaps its silence. In a universe teeming with hundreds of billions of galaxies, each home to billions of stars and untold planets, where are they? Where are the others? The paradox haunts us. Could we truly be alone? Or have we simply not yet learned how to listen? The universe does not owe us answers, but it offers us signs, subtle, complex, elegant, patterns in the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, trace the fingerprints of creation. Gravitational waves ripple through space, the echoes of cataclysmic mergers of black holes and neutron stars. And quantum fluctuations in the vacuum hint at a multiverse, a possibility almost too vast to grasp, where our universe is just one bubble in an infinite cosmic foam.
These are not just questions of physics, they are questions of perspective. For in contemplating the unknown, we are also gazing into ourselves, our origins, our future, and our place in the cosmic story. We build telescopes to peer deeper into space, particle colliders to delve deeper into matter, and probes to journey beyond the boundaries of our solar system. But still, the unexplained remains, not as a void of ignorance, but as a frontier of wonder. Not a lack of answers, but an invitation to explore. Each mystery is a beacon calling us forward. Each anomaly is a key perhaps unlocking a door to a deeper understanding. And as we venture further into the darkness, one thing becomes clear. The universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it may be stranger than we can imagine. But we will continue to try. We are, after all, the universe made conscious, a way for the cosmos to know itself. And in the endless night, we carry a light, curiosity, imagination, and the insatiable drive to understand. We now look beyond what can be touched or seen, into realms where our most advanced instruments fail and only mathematics dares to tread. There are equations suggesting dimensions beyond the familiar three, extra folds of space curled in on themselves, too small to detect yet vital to the tapestry of physical law. In string theory, the universe is not made of particles, but vibrating filaments of energy, harmonics of reality playing out in 11 dimensions. It sounds fantastical, even poetic, but the math holds steady, beckoning us to reimagine the very substance of existence. Then there are the voids, vast regions of space almost entirely empty. These cosmic deserts, millions of light years across, appear to defy the distribution of matter predicted by our models. Are they anomalies or evidence of something greater tugging invisibly across space-time? Perhaps an echo from a parallel universe brushing against our own. And what of time itself? In our everyday lives, time flows in one direction, from past to future, like a river. But at the quantum level, the arrow of time blurs. Particles seem to behave as if the future already exists, and the past is never truly gone. Could time be an illusion, a trick of consciousness imposed on a deeper, timeless order? If so, what lies outside that order, and can we ever reach it? Our minds, evolved on the plains of an ancient Earth, were never meant to comprehend such strangeness. Yet here we are, probing singularities where the laws of physics collapse and staring into simulations that may one day recreate entire pocket universes. We speak of the multiverse not as science fiction, but as hypothesis, one rooted in inflation theory and quantum mechanics. Each decision, each outcome, possibly spawning a new branch of reality. In this view, there are infinite versions of you, living out infinite permutations of choice. Not all scientists agree, but the mere plausibility challenges every assumption about fate, chance, and free will.
Elsewhere, in the outer reaches of the cosmos, galactic rotations hint at forces unknown. Entire clusters spin as if pulled by invisible threads, threads we call dark matter, but do not yet understand. It may be a new form of particle, or perhaps a flaw in the equations we trust. The answer could alter everything from the Big Bang to the fate of the cosmos. And the question of beginnings still burns. What sparked the universe into being? Was there a before, or does that word even apply beyond time itself? Some theorists suggest our universe emerged from quantum fluctuations, a spontaneous bloom from nothingness. Others posit a cyclical model, where universes rise and fall in endless succession. These aren't just philosophical musings, they are testable frameworks guiding some of the most ambitious research ever undertaken. Yet for every theory, a dozen new questions emerge. That is the nature of exploration. Each discovery expands the horizon, but also reveals how much more there is to know. Meanwhile, as our spacecraft drift ever outward, past the heliopause into true interstellar space, they carry messages for the stars. Plaques, recordings, golden discs etched with the sounds of Earth, rain, laughter, heartbeat, language, all launched into the void with hope, however faint, that someone, someday,
might find them. We are merely charting the stars. We are laying the groundwork for the future of awareness itself. For in the silence between galaxies, in the depths of gravitational wells and the curls of magnetic fields, something waits. Not a being, perhaps, not a signal, but an understanding, a pattern that only reveals itself when we're ready to see. And so, we look deeper. We listen harder, not because the answers are easy, but because they are worth the journey. And so we turn to the quantum sea, the invisible bedrock beneath reality, where particles are no longer objects, but probabilities, flickering in and out of existence in a dance too fast for the eye, too delicate for certainty. In this realm, causality begins to tremble. An electron's position is undefined until measured. A photon travels all possible paths at once until observed. Reality, at its most fundamental level, is not solid. It is a haze of maybes collapsed into clarity only when touched by awareness. Could it be that consciousness itself is not merely a passenger in this universe, but a participant? Some suggest that the act of observation helps define what is real. Others warn against assigning meaning where mystery resides. But the question lingers. Is the universe observing us, or are we bringing it into focus?
Beyond the physics, beyond the models and simulations, there lies something even more elusive: the unknown unknowns. Entire domains of nature may exist beyond our sensory and intellectual reach. Just as radio waves once passed through ancient humans unnoticed, there may be forces all around us, waiting for the right kind of perception or the right kind of mind. We search for technosignatures, hints of alien industry, unnatural patterns in starlight, synchronized flashes across the sky, spectral anomalies that defy stellar evolution. We study exoplanet atmospheres for the fingerprints of biology, methane, oxygen, water vapor, all signs that life, complex or simple, might thrive in a distant system. But perhaps intelligence isn't always mechanical or even biological. Perhaps it emerges in ways we don't yet recognize, in plasma or magnetism, or the networked minds of planets themselves. The form of mind may not mirror our own. It may not mirror anything. Even our own origins are laced with enigma. Life on Earth arose quickly, almost immediately, geologically speaking, once conditions were right. But how? Was it sparked by lightning in a primordial soup? Delivered by icy comets? Or did it emerge from quantum self-organization, encoded into the very logic of chemistry? Each possibility reshapes the likelihood of life elsewhere. Each possibility whispers that life may not be rare, but inevitable. And as we simulate the birth of universes in computer models, creating pocket cosmoses governed by different constants, we ask, why this universe? Why these particular values for gravity, charge, mass? A change in any one of them, even slightly, and no stars would form, no planets, no life. Is it coincidence, a cosmic lottery, or design? Not by a creator in the mythic sense, but by some deeper principle of self-selection, where only the universes capable of observers are those that are observed. These are not simple ideas. They are uncomfortable, often paradoxical. But the universe is not obliged to be comfortable. It is not bound by our preferences for symmetry or simplicity or meaning. It is what it is, and in its raw, indifferent elegance lies a kind of transcendent beauty. Our machines grow more capable, our algorithms more precise. We sift through data from telescopes that map the sky in wavelengths our eyes cannot see. X-rays, gamma rays, microwaves.
Each reveals a different facet of the universe. Each opens a new window into the unknown. We track gravitational distortions in clusters billions of light years away. We watch the dance of stars orbiting unseen black holes. We listen to the faint shiver of space itself as massive objects collide and ripple the fabric of reality. These are not the final mysteries. They are only the beginning. In truth, we may never reach the end of this road. There may always be layers beneath layers, deeper truths receding like the stars themselves, vanishing into the infinite.
But that does not diminish the journey. It elevates it. For we are the species that asks, that dreams, that dares to look beyond the visible and ask, what else? And in that question, asked in 1,000 languages, over tens of thousands of years, we become part of something eternal, something cosmic. We become, for a moment, aligned with the vastness. Somewhere in the distance, beyond the edges of the observable universe, lies a silence we cannot penetrate, not because we lack the technology, but because the very fabric of space is stretching too fast for light to return. Galaxies drift beyond our cosmic horizon, disappearing not into darkness, but into inaccessibility. This is not emptiness. This is exile, a reminder that there are truths we may never witness, realms that will forever lie outside the reach of our instruments, our mathematics, even our imagination. Yet we continue to reach. We simulate the earliest fractions of a second after the Big Bang, where energy reigned and particles were yet unborn. In this primal chaos, the forces of nature were unified. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, all facets of a single symmetry broken as the universe cooled. But we have yet to witness that unification. Our colliders strive to recreate it, but the energies are staggering, the precision daunting. Still, each collision, each data point brings us closer to the heart of creation. And what of information, the hidden backbone of the cosmos? Black holes were once thought to consume everything, even the record of what fell inside. But recent theories suggest otherwise, that information, however scrambled, is never truly lost. That space, time, and matter might emerge not from particles, but from entangled bits of quantum data. A cosmic code, woven into every atom, every galaxy, every heartbeat. If that's true, then the universe may be more akin to a vast computation than a mechanical system. Not digital in the way of our machines, but logical, ordered, governed by principles of symmetry and entropy and emergence. A place where the laws are not imposed from above, but bloom from the structure of the vacuum itself. This brings us to one of the most tantalizing possibilities of all, that we may not be passive spectators of this universe, but active agents in its unfolding. That the very act of understanding, of constructing models, of asking why, contributes to the shaping of the reality we inhabit, not in a mystical sense, but in the deepest layers of physics, where observation defines states and where coherence between parts gives rise to meaning. And yet, even amid such dizzying speculation, we find moments of stunning clarity. Pulsars ticking with atomic precision, the alignment of planetary systems echoing patterns seen in spiral shells and ocean currents, the golden ratio etched not just in leaves and galaxies, but in the patterns of matter itself. These harmonies suggest that beauty may not be ornamental, it may be foundational, that elegance is not a human aesthetic, but a cosmic principle. As we venture further, through radio telescopes,
particle accelerators, gravitational wave detectors, we gather not just data, but glimpses. Glimpses of something coherent, unified, and astonishingly vast. We stand not outside the mystery, but within it, made of it. And even now, after centuries of exploration, we have barely cracked the surface. The most advanced theories remain incomplete. The deepest questions remain open. What is the origin of space-time? What mechanism gives rise to consciousness? Can the laws of physics explain why there is something rather than nothing? Are the constants of nature fixed, or are they fluid, changing across regions of a grander multiverse? These are not questions of idle curiosity. They are the compass points for the next chapters of human inquiry. They remind us that we are not done, not even close. We are children of stars, built from atoms forged in ancient supernovae. But we are also something new. We are awareness become mobile, curiosity made flesh. And wherever there is mystery, we are drawn to it, not to conquer, but to understand. To stand before the unexplained is not to be afraid, it is to be alive. There is something quietly revolutionary in the notion that the universe, at its most fundamental level, may not be a place, but a process. Not a static arena of matter and energy, but a continual unfolding of relationships, patterns, and transformations. Space itself may be emergent, time a byproduct of entanglement, reality less a structure and more a choreography. Somewhere in the cold void between stars, entire solar systems drift in silence, untouched for billions of years. Yet within their icy moons, tidal forces warm subterranean oceans, dark, pressurized worlds beneath sheets of ancient ice. On Europa, Enceladus, perhaps even Triton, water flows where no sunlight reaches. Here, chemistry unfolds in isolation, and the possibility of alien biology lingers just beneath the surface. If life can emerge in such places, cut off from warmth, from air, from sunlight, then it may not be the exception in the cosmos, but the norm. It could be that life, in one form or another, is as ubiquitous as gravity, seeded by the laws of physics wherever conditions align. We may be surrounded by it. We may already be immersed in it.
We tend to imagine life as something we recognize, cellular, carbon-based, dependent on water. But life elsewhere may be constructed from silicon or ammonia, may thrive in environments we deem inhospitable, or exist in forms we cannot categorize, fields of consciousness, clouds of magnetism, sentience diffused across complex planetary systems. Our search has only begun, and yet we must acknowledge we may overlook what we do not yet know how to perceive. The same humility applies to our understanding of intelligence. We measure intellect by our own metrics, language, tools, abstraction, yet nature may harbor awareness in modes far removed from ours. The hive, the fungal network, the biosphere all exhibit coordination, adaptation, resilience. What if intelligence is not individual, but collective? What if it has been speaking all along in rhythms we have mistaken for noise? Meanwhile, the sky continues to surprise us. Stars that dim without explanation, objects traveling faster than models predict, pairs of quasars locked in dances over billions of light years. The more we observe, the more the data deviates from expectation. The universe is not merely strange, it is consistently more intricate than we had dared to imagine. Even gravity, the oldest known force, remains the least understood. It refuses to be quantized, to fit cleanly into our theories. It seeps between the cracks in our models, hinting that a deeper principle, a forgotten symmetry or hidden dimension may lie beneath.
Perhaps gravity is not a force at all, but a geometric artifact, the curvature of a reality more complex than space-time alone can describe. These frontiers are not merely academic. They shape the tools we build, the paths we choose, the future we will inhabit. A complete theory of everything is not just a physicist's dream. It is the foundation for technologies we cannot yet name, insights we cannot yet foresee. And through all of this, through the colliding galaxies, the trembling quantum fields, the frozen moons, and the whisper of gravitational waves, one pattern holds steady: emergence. From simplicity, complexity arises. From chaos, structure. From silence, music. Atoms become molecules. Molecules, cells. Cells, minds. And minds, at last, ask questions of the stars. That we can wonder at all is the greatest anomaly of all. For the universe did not need to be aware. It did not require consciousness to evolve, nor curiosity to take root. And yet here we are, eyes lifted, questions forming, stories unfolding. We are the bridge between the inanimate and the introspective, the echo of the Big Bang finally asking what it meant. At this moment, at this scale, we are small. But scale is not the measure of meaning. A single thought, a question asked in the dark, can span galaxies. And so, we continue. Not because the mysteries must be solved, but because they call to us. They are the beacon on the cosmic shore, and we are the travelers, drawn not by certainty, but by wonder. Even now, as we map the geometry of space-time and decode the spectra of exoplanets, there remains an eerie sense that we are only brushing against the veil, that behind the elegance of equations lies a deeper truth, one not yet translatable into symbols or language, a truth that resists being captured, as if understanding itself must evolve before it can be known. Consider the cosmic background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, ancient light still cooling as it stretches across the expanding universe. To our instruments, it is a whisper from the dawn of time, filled with subtle irregularities. Those slight fluctuations, mere thousandths of a degree, gave rise to all structure: stars, galaxies, planets, and us. From randomness, order emerged. But why those fluctuations? Why not more or less? Why anything at all? As we peer into the earliest epochs of the cosmos, we enter realms where time and causality may lose their meaning. Before the first particles, before light, there was an epoch of inflation, a period of unimaginably rapid expansion. In an instant, space swelled faster than the speed of light, smooth and cold and filled with potential. And from this, the seeds of all things were planted. But what caused inflation? What ended it? We don't yet know. Some suggest our universe was birthed from the quantum foam, a roiling field of energy where tiny universes constantly form and vanish. In this view, our cosmos is not a singular creation, but one successful fluctuation in a vast and eternal multiverse. Others propose that time loops endlessly, that before our beginning lay another end, and that the universe is cyclical, reborn again and again. But the evidence is faint. The answer is elusive. We are navigating an ocean with glimpses of distant shores, but no certainty of land. Still, we are not adrift. Our questions, refined through centuries of exploration, become sharper. They slice through superstition and dogma, illuminating the unknown with the quiet light of reason. We do not know everything, but we know how to ask, and that is a kind of compass. Elsewhere in the universe, on worlds orbiting other suns, the same laws apply. Gravity shapes their skies. Chemistry writes their oceans. And if life has taken hold there, it too must reckon with its sky, must wonder, must reach. Somewhere, perhaps other beings build their own telescopes, searching for flickers of light from across the void, asking the same questions in a different tongue. The search for the unexplained is not a quest for closure. It is an embrace of uncertainty, a celebration of complexity and depth. For in mystery, there is motion. In wonder, there is growth.
We once believed Earth was the center of the cosmos. Then we discovered it was not even the center of our solar system. Later, we learned our sun is but one star among hundreds of billions in a galaxy among trillions. Each step outward was humbling, but with each humility came a broader sense of belonging. Not less significance, but a deeper connection. We are made of this universe. The iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, the carbon that anchors every living molecule, all born in the hearts of long-dead stars. We are walking archives of stellar history. When we study the cosmos, we are, in a sense, remembering ourselves. The unexplained is not a barrier. It is an invitation. An invitation to imagine worlds with 3 suns and no shadows, to ponder intelligences that do not speak but resonate, to think of time not as a line but as a lattice where past and future intertwine. There may come a day when we cross the boundaries we now consider fixed, when we decipher the nature of consciousness, when we fold space, when we create miniature universes in controlled laboratories. The unexplained of today may be the engineering of tomorrow. But even then, there will be more. For every explanation opens a deeper mystery. Every answer reveals new questions folded inside. The cosmos, it seems, is not merely vast in size. It is infinite in depth. And we, fragile, temporary, luminous creatures, are the eyes with which it sees. There are moments when the night sky does more than inspire awe. It evokes a quiet recognition, a feeling that we are witnessing not just beauty, but a structure, intricate, deliberate, unfinished. A cosmic sentence still being written, whose grammar we do not yet know, but whose rhythm we can almost feel. The stars do not speak, yet they have shaped our languages. They do not move for our sake, yet we have moved entire civilizations by their light. For millennia, we trace their positions across the heavens, seeking patterns, seeking prophecy. And though we now understand them as nuclear furnaces suspended in a vacuum, the reverence has never left us. If anything, it has deepened. To know that those cold lights are suns, some old, some dying, some yet forming, is to realize we are embedded in a story that transcends the boundaries of human time. And within that story, we have just barely begun to turn the first pages. There are now telescopes so precise they can detect the trembling of distant stars caused by unseen planets, planets with atmospheres, seasons, and the possibility of clouds shaped by alien winds. Our instruments can tease apart the faintest shifts in light to determine the presence of ozone, methane, or water vapor, potential biosignatures adrift across light years. But still, we are limited by the tyranny of distance. The nearest potentially habitable world is more than 4 light years away. With current technology, it would take tens of thousands of years to reach it. Our radio signals, traveling at light speed, are only now brushing against the edges of our neighborhood in the galaxy. We are, in cosmic terms, infants, just learning to speak, just beginning to listen. And what we hear is silence. The Fermi paradox lingers like a question suspended in the dark. Where is everyone? If the universe is ancient and vast, and life is not a miracle but a mechanism, then why have we not yet encountered the evidence? No signal, no structure, no whisper across the void. It may be that civilizations rise and fall too quickly to overlap. It may be that they watch silently, unwilling to interfere. Or perhaps intelligence, once born,
always turns inward, into virtual worlds, into silence, into self-erasure. Or more humbling still, it may be that we are among the first. But absence is not evidence of emptiness, and silence in the cosmic scale is not permanence. Elsewhere, the universe continues its patient work. Stars collide and give birth to new elements. Black holes spin and emit jets that can stretch for thousands of light years. Galaxies merge in dances that take eons to complete, their stars swirling in gravitational spirals too slow for any single mind to witness, but not too slow for our mathematics to predict. It is in these predictions that we begin to glimpse something remarkable, that the language of the cosmos is comprehensible. Not fully, not yet, but enough to suggest we are aligned with it in some subtle way. Our equations, drawn on chalkboards and run through silicon mines, mirror the patterns in the heavens. There is resonance between what we think and what is. Why should this be so? Why should a brain shaped by survival on a pale blue dot have the capacity to understand neutron stars, quantum tunneling, or the geometry of higher dimensions? Perhaps because the universe is not foreign to us, we are its offspring, born of it, built from it, a fragment of the whole, turned inward, capable of reflection. And when we reflect, we touch something eternal. We touch the part of the cosmos that is not bound by time or space, the part that dreams, questions, explores, the part that sees a black hole not as an end, but as an open question, that sees a supernova not as destruction, but as renewal, that sees mystery not as a threat, but as a call. For in the grand equation of the cosmos, uncertainty is not a flaw, it is a feature, a mechanism that invites us forward, one revelation at a time.
And so, despite our smallness, despite our fragility, we persist. We aim our telescopes at the deepest voids, we accelerate particles to near light speed, we encode our hopes into robotic explorers and fling them into the darkness. Not because we expect answers right away, but because we must continue. Because to be conscious in this universe is to feel the gravitational pull of wonder, to drift inexorably toward the unexplained. There is a stillness in the void that does not imply absence, but waiting. Between the galaxies, where matter thins to near nothing and even light grows faint, the universe continues to evolve. Not in the explosive drama of supernovae or the convulsions of merging black holes, but in the quiet curvature of space-time, in the background hum of ancient radiation, in the subtle, near imperceptible drift of cosmic structures. It is in this silence, in this vast and nearly invisible theater, that some of the deepest truths may be hidden. We often seek the spectacular, the flash, the pulse, the gravitational scream of collapsing giants. But what if the greatest mysteries lie in what doesn't happen? In the regions where entropy reigns, where time slows, and where the past seems to fade, not into memory, but into fundamental irrelevance. The fabric of the cosmos holds not only stars and gas and dark matter, it holds rules, and those rules are not static. They may shift, evolve, or ripple beneath dimensions we cannot yet perceive. There are regions in deep mathematical space where our models of the universe begin to falter, where infinities arise, where particles lose identity, where cause and effect blur into probabilistic smears of possibility. In these fault lines of understanding, we begin to see the outlines of a deeper order, one that transcends the separateness of matter, energy, and information. Some physicists now suspect that space-time itself may be emergent, not fundamental, but built from more primitive ingredients, like consciousness emerging from the firing of neurons. In this framework, the universe is not a container, but a consequence of relationships, of entanglement, of correlations that weave existence from something more abstract than atoms or fields. This line of thought isn't merely philosophical, it is increasingly mathematical, testable, precise, and it raises a profound possibility
that the ultimate reality of the cosmos may be more like a network than a stage, a lattice of interconnections, a tapestry of probabilities, and perhaps, if we stretch the imagination, a kind of mind. For what is awareness, if not the weaving together of information across time? And what is the universe, if not the most elaborate web of information we know? To consider that the cosmos might be in some way aware is not to anthropomorphize it, but to entertain the notion that consciousness is not unique to biology, that it may be a fundamental feature, latent in complexity, waiting to ignite when conditions align, a kind of cosmic sentience, not shaped like a brain, but like a field, a wave, a totality.
Such ideas remain speculative, of course, but they serve an essential function. They remind us that our frameworks are temporary, that our current understanding, however powerful, is not the final word, but a stepping stone, a chapter in a book whose ending has not yet been written. And that's the essence of the unexplained. It is not chaos, not randomness. It is structure waiting to be discovered, pattern just beyond resolution, signal hidden in the noise. There are quanta we haven't measured, fields we haven't named, constants that seem arbitrary, but perhaps are not. The speed of light, the strength of gravity, the mass of the electron, each a fixed value, precise to many decimal places, yet unexplained. Why these numbers? Why this structure and not another? It is tempting to call it chance, to shrug and move forward, but science, at its heart, is the art of not shrugging, of insisting that even the arbitrary might one day reveal logic, that beneath every coincidence may lie causality. And so, we persist. We run simulations of early universes, tweaking the constants, watching them collapse or expand into sterile emptiness. We push atoms into quantum superposition and entangle them across distance, challenging our ideas of locality. We send messages into the dark, not because we expect a reply, but because communication is itself an act of hope, a declaration that we believe in others, even if we've never seen them. Hope, in the scientific sense, is not blind. It is methodical. It is built from rigor, from skepticism, from the willingness to be wrong in pursuit of truth. And yet it glows with something deeply human, a belief that knowledge is possible, and that it matters. In this, we align ourselves with the universe, not in dominance, not in conquest, but in resonance. We are not separate from the unexplained. We are a part of it. There are patterns etched into the cosmos so vast they stretch across billions of light years, filaments of galaxies like threads in a grand cosmic web spanning the observable universe. Between them lie immense voids, empty expanses where few galaxies exist. This structure was not placed by hand, nor forged by intention, but by gravity, dark matter, and the minute fluctuations in the infant universe, amplified over time into the scaffolding of everything.
Perhaps they are relics of an earlier epoch, echoes of a time before time, when the known laws had not yet solidified. Or perhaps they are signs of interactions with realities parallel to ours, each governed by slightly different rules, their presence betrayed only through the tiniest distortions in the structure of space. The idea that we may be living in just one of many universes, each with its own laws, sounds like fantasy. But it emerges naturally from several serious theories: inflationary cosmology, quantum mechanics, even certain interpretations of string theory. These frameworks did not set out to be mystical, they simply follow the mathematics where it leads, and often it leads to the strange. If true, then our universe is one bubble in an infinite foam, each bubble born from the collapse of symmetry, each with its own version of reality. In some, stars never form. In others, life may evolve from elements we've never encountered. And somewhere, perhaps, is a universe not unlike ours, with galaxies, planets, questions, and maybe even beings looking up into their own night sky, wondering if they too are alone. Yet no matter how far we project outward, the mystery also deepens inward. The fabric of the vacuum, what we call empty space, is anything but empty. It seethes with virtual particles popping in and out of existence. It contains the potential for energy, structure, even force. The vacuum is not a background, it is an active player. It defines how forces behave, how particles acquire mass, how the universe expands. And it may hide secrets. Some theorists suggest that beneath our known physics lies a deeper symmetry, one that unites all forces. A grand unified theory, perhaps even a theory of everything. But so far, such symmetry eludes us. It is like glimpsing a reflection on the surface of water, distorted, shifting, real, yet unreachable. In the meantime, we build instruments of exquisite sensitivity. Neutrino detectors buried beneath kilometers of ice, arrays of radio dishes that scan for whispers in the electromagnetic spectrum, space telescopes that see galaxies as they were before Earth existed. And yet, with each revelation comes another question. Why does the universe accelerate? What sets the boundary between quantum uncertainty and classical stability? Why does reality decohere into the familiar? We know now that observation changes the observed, that consciousness is not separate from the experiment, but entwined with it. Does this suggest a fundamental role for the observer? Or is it simply a quirk of quantum behavior we have yet to fully decode? And what then of consciousness itself? We experience reality as a flow, a present moving from past to future. But physics does not demand a direction. The equations are time-symmetric. The arrow of time, some suggest, may emerge from entropy, the universe's tendency toward disorder.
But the inner experience of time, of awareness, memory, anticipation, remains a puzzle untouched by equations. Is consciousness a byproduct of matter, or is matter shaped in some way by consciousness? Does the universe require awareness to collapse its probabilities into form? These are not idle musings, they are active frontiers, where physics meets philosophy, where logic meets the unknowable. Perhaps the ultimate mystery is not out there, but within. For as we search the stars, we are also searching ourselves. Each question we ask of the cosmos reflects a question we hold about being, about meaning, about origin, about the strange privilege of existing at all. And in that reflection, something remarkable occurs. The universe, vast and cold and ancient, becomes not indifferent, but intimate. Not a thing we study, but a story we are part of. A story still unfolding, still being written in particles and in planets, in gravity and in dreams. And though we may never know the final chapter, we are, in this moment, among its authors. Somewhere between starlight and shadow lies the recognition that the cosmos is not static. It is alive with motion, transition, and becoming. Even now, space itself expands, stretching the distance between galaxies, accelerating under the influence of something we do not yet comprehend. We call it dark energy, but the name conceals our ignorance. It is not a substance, not a particle, not a field we can isolate. It is a phenomenon, pervasive, silent, and persistent, altering the fate of everything. In a universe without dark energy, the expansion would slow, perhaps halt, maybe reverse. Galaxies would draw together, stars would ignite in dense pockets of collapse. A great contraction might begin,
a cosmic breathing. But with dark energy, the expansion does not slow, it speeds up. Over time, galaxies will vanish from our sky, not because they cease to shine, but because their light will never reach us. The cosmos is accelerating into isolation. This paints a haunting future, a universe grown cold and quiet, where stars have burned out, black holes have evaporated, and particles themselves may decay into silence. A long, dark era, not of drama, but of stillness. And yet this future is not yet written. Our models carry uncertainty. The equations are elegant but incomplete. Somewhere in the fine structure of quantum theory or in the unfinished mathematics of gravity may lie a correction, a missing term, a new symmetry that shifts our trajectory towards something less final.
In this context, even black holes, once thought to be dead ends, take on new meaning. They are not voids but vaults, not destructive but transformative. When matter crosses their event horizon, it is not simply erased, it is stored, its information preserved in ways we do not yet understand. The surface of the black hole, its boundary, encodes the history of everything that has fallen into it. It's a reminder that even the most extreme corners of physics may play by rules, and that the rules, though strange, are consistent. The same may be true for life. We often speak of the conditions for life as if they are rare alignments: the right temperature, the right molecules, the right distance from a star. But what if life is not an exception to the rule, but a consequence of it? What if life is what happens when the universe becomes complex enough to notice itself? The atoms that make up our bodies are billions of years old. The hydrogen in our blood formed in the Big Bang, the calcium in our bones, and the hearts of dying stars. Life is not apart from the cosmos, it is its continuation, its flowering. And intelligence, that fleeting spark that allows a species to send symbols across space, may be a phase, a window, a kind of lens through which the universe studies its own form. Through us, it learns to measure itself, to predict, to build, to wonder. In this light, the unexplained becomes more than a problem to solve. It becomes a dialogue. The cosmos speaks in the language of motion, force, and field. We respond with curiosity, model, and metaphor. The silence of space is not a void, it is a canvas. And across it, we are painting understanding, pixel by pixel, data point by data point. Our discoveries are brushstrokes, our questions the lines of inquiry that shape the composition. We have come far, from fire-lit myths to space telescopes, from guessing at the stars to mapping the afterglow of creation. And yet every step forward only expands the horizon of what we do not know. This is not discouragement, this is freedom. For the unexplained lies possibility, the next discovery, the next paradigm, the next window through which we will peer into a universe more complex, more subtle, and more beautiful than we had dared to hope. And we will peer, we will build, we will ask, because that is what it means to be part of this cosmos, not only to exist within it, but to seek, to reach, and to never stop wondering.
Beneath the elegant equations in the shimmer of distant stars lies a deeper truth. The universe is not just vast, it is layered. Reality may be built in tiers, each more abstract than the last. What we experience as solidity is mostly emptiness. What we perceive as time may be emergent, and what we call laws may be provisional, not ordained, but evolving. In recent years, physicists have begun to explore a radical idea that space, time, and gravity might arise from something even more fundamental: entanglement. In this view, the structure of space-time itself could be a consequence of how information is shared between quantum systems. Geometry, distance, even causality, all could be products of deep informational relationships. If true, then reality is not a stage upon which particles act. It is the action itself, a process of correlation, a weave of influence, from which form and flow emerge.
The universe doesn't contain information, it is information. And consciousness, our awareness, our sense of presence, might be an echo of this same relational architecture scaled into biological form. And so we find ourselves in an age where ancient questions meet futuristic tools. We design artificial minds to look for patterns too subtle for us to see. We untangle photons across continents. We launch telescopes to catch light that began its journey before Earth was formed. And all the while, we remain tethered to something deeper. Not just the need to know, but the recognition that there is something to know. The more we uncover, the more the cosmos behaves like a paradox, both simple and unfathomable, rule-bound yet unpredictable, mechanical in part but laced with mystery. It is governed by symmetry and broken by randomness. It is shaped by chance, but reveals breathtaking order. A spiral galaxy, a seashell, a storm on Jupiter, all echo the same mathematics. This recurring beauty suggests that the laws of the universe are not arbitrary. They are not scribbled across the sky by accident. They are tuned, not necessarily for us, but for structure, for complexity, for emergence. And in this complexity, something new appears. Not merely atoms in motion, but intention, perception, memory. The raw matter of the universe becomes aware of itself, through neurons, through language, through dreams. We dream not just of worlds beyond our own, but of what lies beneath the surface of being. We simulate universes, not out of vanity, but to test the bounds of what's possible. Could a different universe still give rise to life? Could consciousness emerge from alternate rules? Could existence itself be reconfigurable? These are no longer questions of metaphysics alone. They are entering the realm of science, slowly, carefully, with all the rigor that wonder demands. And yet, the mysteries persist.
Why do some quantum interactions seem instant across distance? Why does matter arrange itself into fractals, into lattices, into snowflakes and galaxies? Why does symmetry break? And why, in the ruins of that symmetry, does meaning arise? Perhaps the answers will come in time, perhaps they will not, but the pursuit shapes us. It binds us together, not just across nations or cultures, but across generations. Every telescope, every equation, every probe launched into the dark is part of an ancient and ongoing ritual, the ritual of curiosity. We do not seek to conquer the unknown, we seek to understand it, to meet it with open minds and instruments sharpened by thought, to sit with the questions even when answers are far away, and still feel wonder. And that wonder, quiet, persistent, luminous, is the closest thing we have to truth, for it speaks to something beyond survival, beyond utility. It speaks to the part of us that remembers the stars not only as destinations, but as origins, that feels in the deepest places that the story of the universe is also our story, not because we are central, but because we are conscious. And consciousness, whatever else it may be, is the universe awake. Every discovery we make draws the curtain back a little farther, revealing not a stage, but a labyrinth. For centuries, we imagined the universe as clockwork, neat, mechanical, deterministic, each gear turning in perfect succession. But that vision is dissolving. In its place stands something far more subtle, a cosmos built not from certainty, but from possibility. A universe where the future is not written, but sculpted moment by moment through interaction, probability, and emergence. At the smallest scales, particles do not occupy fixed positions. They inhabit a field of potential, collapsing into form only when measured. Reality is not continuous, it is granular, quantized. And this discreteness is not a flaw in our perception, it is the foundation of how the universe operates. Atoms vibrate in harmony with fields. Fields ripple through vacuum, and from those ripples, the fabric of being is born. And yet, for all our knowledge of the microscopic world, we do not fully understand how it gives rise to the macroscopic, to the warm solidity of a hand, the graceful arc of a comet, the quiet thoughts that move through the human mind.
The unexplained is not a wall. It is a door, one that opens not outward, but inward, into new models, new ways of seeing, and sometimes new ways of being. For there are other mysteries, ones we rarely name aloud. Why does anything exist at all? Why should there be laws, or order, or experience? Why should there be a universe with beauty, with symmetry, with stars that die so that life might one day emerge from their ashes? Science cannot yet answer these questions. Perhaps it never will. But it can surround them with context. It can draw the map closer. And in doing so, it gives us something deeper than certainty. It gives us perspective. Perspective that we are part of something ancient, unfolding, unfinished. We are not just watching the universe, we are participating in it. Our breath, our thoughts, our instruments, our art, all small eddies in a grand cosmic current. Even the act of wonder is a kind of emergence. It arises when complexity meets consciousness, when the cold equations of physics pass through the filter of a human soul and return as awe. And awe is not passive. It drives us to ask, to build, to reach beyond the horizon of what we know and into the limitless terrain of what might be. It is what propels a civilization to place a golden record on a spacecraft and send it into interstellar space. Not to be heard, necessarily, but to say, we were here, we saw, we asked. And in that asking, we are connected, not just to each other, but to every quark and quantum field, to the stars that will never know our names, to the edges of time itself. For when we peer into the unexplained, we are not merely searching for answers. We are listening for our own echo, cast forward into the dark. There are places in the universe we may never reach, not because they are too far, but because of how space-time itself behaves. As the cosmos expands, entire regions slip beyond our causal horizon. Their light, even traveling at the fastest speed nature allows, will never arrive. Those galaxies, those stars, those potential worlds, they are lost to us not by distance, but by destiny. This is not absence, it is a reminder that our view of reality is always partial, that there are limits, not just of technology, but of principle baked into the architecture of existence. And yet in this narrowing window, we still look outward, we still send signals, still build detectors to capture the faintest murmur from the deep sky.
Why? Because in the seeking, something profound unfolds. Not a dominance over nature, but a dialogue with it. A recognition that we are, in every way, entangled with what we study. The iron in our blood was forged in stellar furnaces. The calcium in our bones, the dust of ancient explosions. Our DNA carries echoes of the first replicators. Our minds, shaped by the long patience of evolution, are nonetheless drawn toward the stars. We are made of memory, of processes that began before Earth existed. And in our neurons, in our curiosity, those processes have developed feedback. They now look back across eons and ask, how? Why? What's next? Some of the most promising answers lie not in telescopes, but in patterns. Mathematical symmetries that hint at a universe more unified than we perceive. Supersymmetry, extra dimensions,
axions and inflatons. Strange terms, stranger ideas. Yet they arise not from fantasy, but from the gaps in our understanding. They are scaffolds of theory, reaching across the chasm between what we can measure and what we suspect must be true. It is here, in the space between observation and belief, that science lives. Not as dogma, but as discipline, a willingness to be surprised, a readiness to discard what no longer serves, an openness to marvel at the unexpected. And the universe does not disappoint. In recent years, we have found planets that rain molten glass sideways, exoplanets with skies of vaporized metal, rogue worlds wandering starless through the interstellar dark. We have observed stars torn apart by black holes, watched jets of plasma fire across light years, and heard the cosmic tremors of space-time itself through gravitational wave detectors. Each signal, each data point is a fragment of a story still being written. And always, behind these wonders, there is silence. Not the silence of nothingness, but of immensity, of a reality so vast, so interconnected, that it does not need to speak in words. Its language is entropy and emergence, curvature and correlation, distance and drift. And we, as recent participants in this long narrative, are learning to listen. We convert light into meaning, radiation into music, numbers into models that hint at the architecture beneath it all.
Still, we do not know what breathes fire into the equations, what gives rise to the laws themselves, why the vacuum has structure, why quantum fields fluctuate, why the constants of nature are tuned just so, allowing complexity to bloom from chaos. It may be that answers lie in realms we cannot access, beyond black hole event horizons, beyond the Planck scale, beyond our dimensional intuition. Or it may be that the very act of asking, of building better models, changes our understanding so fundamentally that the question dissolves. Not every mystery demands resolution. Some exist to expand the perimeter of our thinking, to remind us that not all truths are tidy, that some are majestic precisely because they remain out of reach. But this does not mean we stop. It means we continue, with humility sharpened by awe. We explore because the unexplained is not a boundary, it is a beckoning. And in responding, we do more than study the cosmos. We honor it. We declare, with each telescope aimed skyward, each equation scratched into chalk, each dream of what might lie beyond the next horizon, that we are listening, that we care to know. Not because we are entitled to answers, but because we are capable of asking the questions. There are concepts in modern physics so strange, so counterintuitive, that they blur the line between scientific theory and poetic metaphor. One of these is the idea that the universe may be fundamentally non-local, that what happens in one place can be instantly connected to what happens elsewhere, regardless of distance. This is not science fiction. It is quantum entanglement, a phenomenon verified in laboratories where particles share a fate even when separated by light years. This defies the classical view of reality, that things exist with definite properties independent of observation, and that information cannot travel faster than light. But the quantum world laughs at such boundaries. It operates on different principles, where uncertainty is not a flaw, but a feature, where possibility reigns until measured, and measurement reshapes the very nature of what is. And so we are left with a question. If the building blocks of reality are so deeply entangled, then what is separation? What is individuality? Is a star on the other side of the galaxy truly distant, or merely elsewhere in the same equation? In this light, we begin to see ourselves not as isolated minds floating in space, but as manifestations of an underlying unity, expressions of a fabric that includes galaxies, quarks, thought, and time itself.
That fabric may be more dynamic than we ever imagined. In some cosmological models, the constants of nature, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, even the mass of the electron, are not eternally fixed, but may drift subtly over cosmic time.
If true, this would mean that the laws of physics are not absolute, but evolving. That the universe is not built on a static foundation, but on shifting ground, a kind of cosmic improvisation. And perhaps that is why it births complexity, because it too is changing. From such subtle changes, vast transformations can emerge. A tiny imbalance in the early universe, a slight excess of matter over antimatter, was enough to ensure that something, rather than nothing, remains. And from that something, atoms, stars, life, minds, stories, all of it dependent on the smallest asymmetry, all of it improbable. Yet here it is. Even now, the story is still unfolding. We are beginning to witness the birth of stars in real time, to map the growth of galaxies across billions of years, to simulate the collapse of matter into the hearts of black holes. We observe not only the present, but the deep past, fossil light, fossil structure, fossil motion, all preserved in the sky. And still we wonder, is this everything? There are regions of the cosmos we cannot see, not because they are distant, but because they are dark, literally invisible to our instruments. Dark matter, silent and elusive, surrounds galaxies and guides their rotation. We see its gravitational influence, but we cannot touch it, cannot trap it in a lab. It is there, undeniably, yet utterly alien to our senses. And there may be even more. Hidden sectors, parallel physics, mirror particles, entire branches of the universe that interact with ours only through gravity. These are not fantasies. They are responses to the discrepancies in our data, puzzles that hint at deeper structures, worlds folded within our own. As we probe further, we find ourselves standing at a crossroads of knowledge and mystery. We know more about the first few minutes after the Big Bang than we do about the contents of the deepest ocean. We can trace the fusion processes in stars, but we still do not fully understand how consciousness arises in a brain. Somewhere, perhaps, these two frontiers meet, the outer cosmos and the inner mind. Perhaps awareness is not an exception, but a phase transition, a threshold crossed when matter becomes self-referential, when complexity tips into reflection. And if that is true, then perhaps the universe, through us, is becoming aware of itself, slowly, tentatively, in fragments and questions and quiet realizations. This does not diminish its grandeur, it deepens it. We are not above the universe nor beneath it. We are not spectators, we are participants in a vast unfolding, a drama without script whose final act may never arrive, not because it has no end, but because it is infinite in potential.
The unexplained, then, is not a space of failure. It is a space of becoming, a place where new physics will one day be written, where new forms of life may arise, where thought itself may take on forms we can't yet imagine. And through it all, we will continue to ask, because to ask is to affirm that we are still in motion, still evolving, still part of the great and silent mystery that surrounds us. There are moments in science when the familiar dissolves, and what remains is pure question. Take time, for example. We live immersed in it, ruled by its passage, haunted by its limits. Yet when we examine it closely, time begins to unravel. In Einstein's equations, time is a coordinate, malleable, relative, dependent on motion and gravity. To a photon, moving at light speed, time does not exist. In the heart of a black hole, time is stretched to infinity. And in the equations of quantum mechanics, time behaves very differently, not as a flowing river, but as a parameter, silent and unchanging. There is no consensus on what time is. Some suggest it is not fundamental, that it emerges from correlations between states or from entropic gradients. Others go further, proposing that our sense of a past, present, and future is a product of consciousness alone, a narrative constructed by brains to make sense of change. If so, then the flow of time may be an illusion. A necessary one, but an illusion nonetheless. And if time is not fundamental, then perhaps beginning and end are not either. This reframes everything we think we know about origins. The Big Bang may not have been the birth of the universe in the way we imagine. It may have been a transition, a change of phase, a bounce from a previous contraction, or the emergence of one region from a larger metastructure, a multiversal foam, eternally generating. In such models, our universe is not the universe, but a universe, one of countless others, each with its own rules, its own story, its own symmetry or brokenness. And yet, in all this multiplicity, a pattern remains: the rise of complexity from simplicity, the unfolding of structure from formlessness, the movement from undifferentiated energy to stars, to life, to thought. How does such structure persist? One possible answer lies in the anthropic principle, the idea that we observe a universe compatible with life because we are here to observe it. But this answer feels incomplete. It avoids the deeper question: why should any universe at all be capable of reflection, of memory, of meaning? This brings us back to the most intimate frontier of all: consciousness. We still do not understand how electrochemical signals in the brain give rise to subjective experience, how neurons firing in patterns produce joy, fear, curiosity, how awareness can arise from matter.
Some suggest consciousness is an emergent property, a side effect of complexity. Others believe it to be fundamental, woven into the fabric of the universe alongside space and time. If the latter is true, then we may need to revise our most basic ontologies to allow for a cosmos that is not only knowable, but experiencing itself. This does not mean the universe thinks in any human sense, but it does mean that the line we draw between object and observer, between world and self, may not be as sharp as we imagined. And if awareness is a thread that runs through reality, from atoms to galaxies, from photons to minds, then perhaps our deepest questions are not about the structure of matter, but about the structure of being. Even now, we build machines that learn. We design algorithms that mimic perception, memory, even creativity. And in doing so, we are forced to ask, what separates intelligence from consciousness? What separates awareness from response? Could something non-biological ever feel? We do not have answers, but the questions are changing us. They are guiding how we explore, how we simulate, how we listen to the stars. Not simply for signals from other civilizations, though we listen for those too, but for signs of intelligence we might have once overlooked, in patterns, in ecosystems, in the deep behavior of matter and light. The unexplained is not confined to distant galaxies. It is in the space between thought and perception, in the trembling edge of theory, in the data that doesn't fit, the measurements that repeat with no known cause, the shadows at the edge of the model. And yet, none of this is a failure. It is a frontier. We are surrounded by riddles not because the universe hides from us, but because it includes us. We are inside the mystery,
made of it, shaped by it. The questions we ask are not separate from the cosmos, they are expressions of it. So we continue, not because we must explain everything, but because asking is an act of becoming. Because in seeking the unknown, we touch the infinite. There are dimensions of reality that we sense only in hints, in the inconsistencies of our models, the anomalies in our measurements, the persistent gaps in our understanding. These aren't errors in our instruments, they're signs. Signs that what we take for reality may be a limited cross-section of something vaster and far stranger. Some physicists have proposed that our entire universe may be a kind of brain, a four-dimensional membrane floating within a higher dimensional space. In this picture, gravity is weaker than the other forces because it leaks into the extra dimensions. We feel only a faint residue of its true strength, like echoes from a deeper architecture. It's a staggering idea that what we call everything may be one surface among many, rippling in a multi-dimensional ocean.
If true, then universes might bump into each other, like tides converging. Such collisions could leave scars, massive gravitational waves, cosmic imprints, unexpected cold spots in the background radiation. We have searched for these signs. Some believe we may have already seen them, faint and ambiguous, hiding in the data like the first glimpse of a coastline through mist. But not all frontiers lie in the sky. Some are buried in silence, in the unlit corners of matter. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, detectors filled with liquid xenon wait in absolute stillness, trying to capture a single interaction with a dark matter particle. For decades, these detectors have waited, listening to a universe that may speak in whispers so faint we've mistaken them for silence. Still, we build bigger chambers, we cool them further, we shield them from every possible interference, determined to hear what cannot be heard. In a similar spirit, we smash particles together at unimaginable speeds, hoping that something new will appear, some artifact from the uncharted regime beyond the standard model, a new particle, a new interaction, a crack in the symmetry. These are not random efforts. They are guided by decades of theory, by mathematical landscapes that suggest there is more, not in poetry, but in numbers. And the numbers are persuasive. There's elegance in them, symmetry, repetition, balance. They hint at unification, a place where the disparate forces we know today were once one. We've traced this symmetry back through time, to microseconds after the Big Bang. But beyond that, the trail fades. We need more data, or perhaps a new way of seeing. Because there is always the possibility that our tools, brilliant as they are not yet shaped to the question. For centuries, we believed light required a medium to travel, an ether. We searched for it in vain. Then, with a shift in thinking, the need for the ether dissolved, and relativity emerged. Reality did not change, only our perspective did. Perhaps we are approaching another such shift. Perhaps space and time, matter and energy, even the notion of individuality are all surface-level manifestations of something deeper, something not yet named, something that connects all things not through force, but through identity, not through proximity, but through relation. It may be that the future of science lies not in discovering new particles, but in discovering new questions. Questions that reframe what we mean by universe, life, mind, or even existence. And in this future, consciousness may no longer be an afterthought. It may be a central player, not merely as the observer, but as a phenomenon woven into the equation itself. Could it be that awareness is what allows complexity to reflect upon itself?
that without minds to witness it, the cosmos is only potential, a vast probability field awaiting coherence. Such ideas are difficult, even dangerous. They border the speculative, the mystical, but they are not unscientific. They are bold extensions of thought born from where the evidence grows thin and the mystery grows thick. And in that thickness, that fertile uncertainty, humanity has always found its greatest revelations. We once stood at the shores of continents we could not imagine. We once believed the stars were holes in a fixed dome. And every time, the unknown invited us forward, not to possess it, but to participate in it. The unexplained is not emptiness. It is the reservoir of all that remains to be discovered, a testament to the fact that reality is more generous, more intricate, and more astonishing than anything we've yet dared to believe.
Others propose something more elemental still: relation. That what exists is not things, but connections. That particles are not discrete dots, but nodes in a vast, ever-shifting network of interactions. That the universe is not built from stuff, but from how stuff relates to other stuff. This sounds abstract until we remember that everything we observe is an interaction. We never see an object by itself. We see its light, its influence, its effect on something else. Perhaps all of reality is made of such effects, and what we call existence is simply the capacity to participate in relation. And where does this leave us? Not on the outside, observing a distant system, but within it, a consequence of it, shaped by the same rules, entangled in the same web. We are not exceptions to the cosmos, we are expressions of it. The neurons in our brains follow quantum rules. The DNA in our cells was forged by stellar chemistry. The very thoughts we think, ideas, dreams, the spark of wonder, are enabled by electrical potentials built from the same physics that govern stars. When we ask questions about the nature of reality, we are the universe querying itself. A moment of self-awareness, brief, flickering, but real. This may be the most extraordinary mystery of all, that from a sea of entropy and blind mechanism has emerged the capacity to imagine, to reflect, to care. Why should the universe produce beings that can love a sunrise, or weep at music, or ponder the heat death of the cosmos while laughing at absurdity? There is no scientific need for this, no thermodynamic advantage, and yet it is. And so we live at the intersection of the measurable and the immeasurable. We map gravitational waves and calculate cosmological constants even as we marvel at beauty, at kindness, at the poetry of a single snowflake. Perhaps the final answers will never be equations on a board. Perhaps they will be patterns of understanding, glimpses of coherence across scale and domain. The unexplained does not diminish what we know. It gives it shape. Like dark space between stars, mystery frames knowledge, not as a limit, but as an invitation. And through that invitation, we are drawn onward, not because we must, but because it is in our nature to look into the night and wonder what lies beyond. Beneath the data, beyond the theories, past the vast catalogs of stars and the fine-tuned machinery of scientific thought, lies a simple, persistent truth. We are surrounded by questions older than language.
The cosmos does not demand our understanding. It does not change for our approval. It simply unfolds, silently, relentlessly, in directions we cannot yet predict. And yet, something within us compels us to ask, to reach, to trace the outlines of its invisible architecture. We live in a world defined by light, but most of the universe is dark. Not just dark in color, but dark in comprehension. Over 95% of everything, the dark matter that binds galaxies together, the dark energy that drives them apart, remains unobserved directly. We infer it from the way galaxies spin, from the bending of light, from the quiet acceleration of the cosmic fabric itself, but we have not touched it. We do not know what it is. This is not defeat. This is illumination. It reminds us that the universe is not obliged to be made in our image, that its truth may lie far outside the vocabulary of the senses we evolved on a rocky planet orbiting a single yellow star. And still, we listen. In the stillness of radio telescopes, we tune in to the silence, not because we expect greetings, but because the act of listening is sacred, a gesture of humility, a signal of intent. Perhaps across the stars, others are doing the same, separated by light years and the barriers of physics, yet united by the impulse to seek meaning in the infinite. That impulse may itself be a kind of physics, a force not of nature, but of mind, the drive toward pattern, toward symmetry, toward explanation. It has carried us from myths told by firelight to spacecraft gliding beyond the heliopause. It whispers that the unexplained is not a void, but a threshold. We do not know how many layers of reality remain hidden, dimensions curled too tightly to detect, regions where particles behave differently, regions where the arrow of time bends or stalls or loops back upon itself. Our instruments have limits, but our imagination, when guided by evidence, does not. We are learning to think in ways that defy our ancestry, to envision particles as clouds of possibility, to accept that the act of observation rewrites the story being observed, to imagine a universe not as a place, but as a tapestry of relationships, complex, shifting, and endlessly self-creating. And as we grow in understanding, we also grow in wonder. The wonder of scale, from the dance of subatomic particles to the rotation of galaxy clusters. The wonder of order, that entropy gives rise to complexity, and complexity to consciousness. The wonder of continuity, that the atoms in our bones once drifted in ancient nebulae and will one day scatter again into the raw material of stars yet unborn. We are, each of us, brief arrangements of matter and mind, temporary and finite, and yet, in this short span, we are capable of connecting to the totality, capable of abstracting time, of conceiving eternity, of asking what came before beginnings.
And perhaps this is our role, not to solve the universe like a puzzle, but to bear witness to it, to name what we can, to marvel at what we cannot, to stand in awe at the edge of understanding and step forward anyway. For the unexplained is not a flaw in the universe, it is the frontier of consciousness. Some truths arrive not as proclamations, but as quiet shifts in perspective. The moment we realize that the universe is not static, not finished, but alive with becoming. It is not simply a container for stars and atoms, but an engine of transformation, constantly generating novelty from rules that never waver. And within that constant unfolding, something remarkable occurs. Patterns that build on patterns, feedback loops that deepen structure, systems that remember, adapt, and reflect. Out of hydrogen and gravity, stars are born. From stardust, planets emerge. On at least one of them, matter has arranged itself into minds capable of questioning the process that brought them forth. This recursive quality, the universe becoming aware of itself through its own products, is not mere poetry. It is physics carried to its most intricate form. And yet, this awareness is local, fragile, and fleeting.
We exist for a cosmic blink, bound by entropy, limited by biology. Our instruments extend our reach, but even they are confined by light speed and causality. Still, with each generation, we see farther, compute faster, imagine deeper. What we call progress is often just clarity, the recognition that our place in the cosmos is smaller than we thought and more significant. For in that smallness lies precision, context, and potential. Consider the vacuum, what we once thought of as empty space. It is not empty. It is a sea of activity, roiling with fluctuations, ephemeral particles bursting into existence and vanishing in the same breath. This quantum foam is not noise. It is the foundation from which reality arises. Everything we observe, from the fusion in stars to the chemistry of life, is layered on this restless substrate.
And there may be deeper layers still. Some theories suggest that space-time is not fundamental, but emergent, that it arises from even more primitive informational processes, perhaps something like quantum computation playing out across an invisible substrate. In this picture, distance is not about meters, but about entanglement. Objects are close not because they're near in space, but because they're deeply correlated. Such concepts shift the way we view reality, no longer as a stage on which things happen, but as a network in which events are defined by relationships, a cosmos that is not merely observed, but participated in. We begin to ask not what is the universe made of, but what is it doing? Not what exists, but what persists, what evolves, what remembers. Memory, too, may be fundamental. Every electron, indistinguishable from the next, follows the same rules. Every physical law holds across the universe with unfailing fidelity. But is that just repetition or something deeper? A kind of inheritance? Is the cosmos in some way remembering itself? And what then of creativity? For among all the known laws, none prohibits the emergence of novelty. From simplicity, complexity arises. From order and chaos combined, new forms appear, unpredictable yet lawful. A spiral galaxy, a nautilus shell, a thought. In this, we find the extraordinary paradox at the heart of the unexplained, that laws can be fixed and yet outcomes can surprise. That from a finite set of particles and interactions, a near infinite spectrum of experiences can bloom. And somewhere in that bloom, life emerges. Not as an isolated miracle, but perhaps as a statistical inevitability, the result of entropy carving channels through possibility space and finding again and again paths that lead to reflection, to sensation, to will. We do not yet know how rare life is, whether it flourishes across galaxies or flickers only here, briefly before vanishing. But we do know this: the potential for complexity is written into the code of the universe itself. And if awareness can arise once, it can arise again. It may take forms we cannot recognize, distributed, post-biological, woven into magnetic fields, or floating in quantum substrates. It may speak no language, build no machines, leave no artifacts. And yet it might wonder, as we do, what is this place? Why am I here? What lies beyond what I know? These are the questions that echo through the unexplained.
They are not a mark of ignorance, but of emergence, signs that the universe is not only measurable, but meaningful, not only governed, but generative. And in our asking, slow, imperfect, persistent, we become part of that process, a node of curiosity in a network of being, a brief flame of sentience burning against the backdrop of deep time. The unexplained is not a void to be filled. It is a horizon to be followed, and we are its witnesses and its continuation. In the farthest reaches of our theories, where mathematics grows thin and intuition dissolves, we begin to glimpse a deeper strangeness,
a truth that has been circling us all along, that perhaps the universe is not built from things, but from processes. It does not stand still. It does not exist in the way a mountain or a sculpture exists. It happens. It unfolds. It becomes. From the flickering edge of quantum fields to the slow drift of galaxies, from the spark of a neuron to the death of a star, the cosmos is in motion, not just through space, but through possibility. And motion implies change, but it also implies freedom. Even under rigid laws, the universe appears to choose from a set of allowed outcomes. The result is not a mechanical repetition, but a blossoming. Each moment a unique fingerprint, unrepeatable in the whole history of time. This suggests a kind of cosmic improvisation, not randomness in the chaotic sense, but unpredictability that emerges from complexity, a kind of creativity baked into the code of being. And in that, we begin to see the unexplained not as a gap in knowledge, but as a window into novelty. Take the origin of life. No single theory has yet accounted for the leap from chemistry to biology, from molecules swirling in primordial oceans to cells capable of division, metabolism, memory. Somewhere in that transition, information began to organize itself, to replicate, to adapt. Life is not just matter, it is pattern sustained through time. And it's in this continuity of pattern that life pushes back against entropy, not by halting it, but by dancing with it, by feeding off gradients, harnessing flows, building structure from flux. Consciousness, too, may be the apex of this dance, the point at which a pattern becomes self-aware, where a system not only processes information, but experiences it. We do not yet know what consciousness is, whether it emerges purely from neural complexity or whether it is a deeper feature of matter itself, a property not added to the universe, but revealed by it under the right conditions. Some propose panpsychism, that all matter has a tiny seed of experience. Others see mind as an emergent phenomenon, arising only in sufficiently integrated systems. Whichever prove true, one fact remains. We are here, we think, we wonder, and in doing so, we transform the universe into a mirror, reflecting back its own potential to be understood.
This act of reflection, of turning awareness upon the cosmos, is not passive. It reshapes what we seek. It defines the questions. It frames the very language in which we speak the mysteries aloud. It reminds us that the unexplained is not foreign, it is intimate. It is in the symmetry we almost understand, in the particle we've predicted but never found, in the discrepancy between theory and measurement that refuses to go away. It is in the silence between radio bursts, in the anomaly in the cosmic background, in the equations that almost unify, but not quite. It is in the fact that we can ask at all. And so, we ask, what if the laws of physics are not fixed, but learned? What if the universe is not a machine, but a story? What if existence itself is layered, with each scale revealing a new logic, a new grammar, a new way of being? These are not fantasies. They are the edges of current thought, the bold threads scientists pull when the tapestry begins to fray. And what they often find is not chaos, but a deeper kind of order, one that had been hidden not by distance, but by expectation, because the unexplained is not only what we cannot yet grasp,
but it is what we never thought to look for. It is the dark energy that fills the void, the background noise that encodes a birth, the nothingness that is never truly empty. It is the quiet presence of a universe not finished, but forever unfinished, not a static object, but a living question. Somewhere between the cold certainty of equations and the warm breath of human curiosity lies a space that resists classification, a place where numbers blur into metaphors and logic begins to resemble wonder. This is where the unexplained lives, not in contradiction to science, but as its horizon. There is a quiet elegance in the idea that the universe is comprehensible, that stars obey laws, that atoms follow rules. But equally profound is the idea that we will never finish the map, that the terrain of knowledge is infinite because reality keeps revealing new dimensions of itself, each more intricate than the last. We once believed that understanding would bring closure, that there would come a point when the major questions would be answered and what remained would be technical. But that vision has faded. Each breakthrough has opened more doors than it closed. Each final theory has only pushed the mystery deeper, scattering clues across domains we didn't know were connected. And now we see that mystery itself is not a lack of explanation, but a property of the universe, an engine of exploration.
The deeper we look, the more connections we uncover. Between the microscopic and the cosmic, between information and matter, between entropy and time, the universe behaves less like a collection of things and more like an evolving language, rich in syntax and rhythm, filled with recurring motifs. Fractals repeat across scales. Golden ratios appear in galaxies and leaves. Spiral arms echo the curl of seashells and hurricanes. These are not superficial resemblances. They are signs that nature reuses solutions, that it builds order with a kind of aesthetic intuition. And yet, beauty is not required by physics. Equations do not have to be graceful to be true. But again and again, we find that the most successful theories, relativity, quantum electrodynamics, general covariance, are elegant, symmetrical, and astonishing in their internal harmony. This leads us to a tantalizing idea, that perhaps the universe is not only governed by logic, but drawn to elegance. That the laws of nature are shaped not only by consistency, but by a kind of internal coherence we experience as beauty. Could it be that beauty is not just a human judgment, but a signature of truth? It's a question that hovers at the boundary of science and philosophy, at the edge of what can be known, and it leads to another. Why is there something rather than nothing? Not why a specific particle exists or why a certain force behaves as it does, but why there is any existence at all. Some theories suggest that nothingness is unstable, that even in the absence of space and time, quantum fluctuations can spontaneously give rise to reality. Others propose that the laws of mathematics are inevitable, and that existence flows from those laws like music from an instrument. But even these answers echo with silence, because at some point, every explanation rests on an assumption that itself must be unexplained. Every foundation leads to deeper ground. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the unexplained is not a flaw to be corrected, but a feature to be cherished. The very thing that keeps the mind alive, that drives discovery, that invites us to think beyond what is and toward what might be. It is what urges us to explore the ocean under Europa's ice, to simulate universes inside supercomputers, to scan the sky for signals that might mean we are not alone. It is what makes us write equations we barely understand, and launch telescopes that may outlive us. We are not just inhabitants of the universe. We are its articulation. Through our questions, it finds form. Through our astonishment, it finds reflection. And through our endless reaching into the dark, it finds voice. The unexplained is not what halts us. It is what calls us forward. Not to conquer, but to witness. Not to solve, but to understand. Not to end the story, but to become part of its telling. Not all mysteries announce themselves with spectacle. Some dwell in the quiet tension between theory and observation, between what we expect and what we find. They hide in decimal points, in statistical outliers, in signals that flicker once and vanish, leaving behind only questions and the echo of possibility. Take the Hubble tension, a disagreement not about the nature of the universe, but about how fast it's expanding. Different methods yield different answers, both precise, both incompatible. It's a small discrepancy, but one that ripples outward, hinting that something in our cosmological model may be incomplete, perhaps a hidden variable, perhaps a new particle, or perhaps a deeper misapprehension of time and expansion themselves. There is something profoundly human about the way we chase these inconsistencies. The cosmos does not demand to be resolved, and yet we treat each anomaly like a thread, tugging at it until a larger pattern emerges, or until it unravels everything we thought we knew. Even time, once thought linear and absolute, now bends and folds in relativity. It dilates near speed and warps around mass. But at the quantum level, time barely plays a role at all. It's not fundamental, it's a parameter, an emergent direction, an illusion born from entropy and correlation. If time itself is emergent, then perhaps causality, the chain of before and after, is not as solid as we imagine. These lead to strange possibilities, that past and future are not separate, that the universe may, in some sense, be static in 4 dimensions, and our experience of movement through it is a feature of consciousness, not reality. Or that time loops exist in rare geometries of space-time, places where cause and effect circle endlessly. These are not metaphors, they are solutions to equations, derived from the same math that predicts black holes and gravitational waves. They are possibilities, and like all deep possibilities, they challenge not just what we know, but how we know it. And what of the vacuum? We once believed empty space was truly empty. But the vacuum seethes with virtual particles, fluctuations, and latent fields. It has energy, it has structure, and it exerts pressure on the universe itself. Dark energy, the force behind cosmic acceleration, may be a property of this vacuum, or of something even deeper, a field we cannot yet detect, a symmetry we have not yet broken, a false vacuum waiting to decay into something new. Such decay, if it occurred, would not be a cosmic explosion, but a transition. A rewriting of the laws of physics, spreading at light speed, transforming everything in its path. It is purely hypothetical, and yet entirely consistent with our best theories. We live in a reality that could, in principle, evolve beneath us. And still, we build maps. Maps of dark matter, traced by the way it bends starlight. Maps of gravitational waves, charting the collisions of invisible giants. Maps of the early universe, decoded from faint microwaves left over from the moment everything began to cool. Each map is a guess, a model, a lens, not the territory, but a projection of meaning onto something unimaginably vast. We do this not because we expect to finish the work, but because something in us refuses to stop. Some drive older than language, older than logic, that compels us to look up and ask, to listen for patterns in noise, to imagine what lies just beyond what is known, to see mystery not as the boundary of thought, but as its beginning. And so we continue,
building instruments that can detect a single neutrino from the far side of the cosmos, writing equations that describe particles that may never appear, dreaming of ways to test the untestable. Because the unexplained is not a silence, it is a signal, a whisper that something more is waiting.